Okay, our next task is to be able to delete an image from both our API and Cloudinary. So let's head back to VS Code, and what we'll do inside our application project, inside the photos folder, we'll create a new C# class and we'll call it delete. And this is going to be a command, so we'll say public class command and we'll say iRequest. And do we need to actually return anything from a delete method? No, we don't. So what we'll do is we'll specify result and make this of type unit. In other words, we're not really returning anything. So we'll bring in using mediator and we'll bring in our result object from application core. And the property that we need inside here, let's add a prop of type string, and this is going to be the ID of the photo. Now our photo ID matches the public ID that we need to pass to Cloudinary for it to actually delete an image from Cloudinary. But that's fine because we're storing this with our photo. And then we'll create a handler. So we'll say public class handler and we'll say iRequest handler and we'll pass in our command and the result of type unit. And then we can go ahead and implement the interface. And we'll need to add a constructor for this. And we'll need effectively three things in here. We need to get our user object, we need to get access to the photo accessor, and we need to update our database. So we're going to need to bring in the data context and say context, the iPhoto accessor, and say photo accessor, and the iUser accessor, and we'll call it user accessor. And let's bring in the using statements. So we need persistence and we need the application interfaces, and then we can go ahead and initialize these fields from parameter, like we've done possibly 100 times before. So inside our handle method, let's make this an async task. And what do we need to do here? Well, we're going to need to get our user object, including the photos collection. So the first thing we'll do is go and get our user. So we'll say var user equals await and our context and users table, and we need to include our photos. So we'll say include, and we'll say p goes to p.photos, but we need to bring in Microsoft Entity Framework Core, and then we can specify photos as the collection we're interested in. And then we'll say first or default async, and we'll say x goes to x.username. That's equal to the user accessor and the get username function. And if we don't have a user, and we'll say if user equals null, then we're just going to return null. So then what we want to do is attempt to get the photo that we're going to try and delete. So what we'll do is we'll say var photo equals, and we'll get this from our user photos collection, and we'll say first or defaults, and we'll need to bring in system.link, and we'll say x goes to x.id equal to the request.id. Now we're not using async here because we've already retrieved our user from the database at this point, and we've included the photos collection. So in memory we should have access to their photos. We don't need to make this async because it's not going to our database at this point. But we may not have an image inside this photos collection that matches this photo. So if the photo is equal to null, then once again we're just going to return null. What we'll do next is we'll check to see if this is the user's main photo. So we'll say if the photo is main, then we're going to return the results of type unit, and we're going to make this a failure. And the message, we're going to say you cannot delete your main photo. Because we're going to be using their main image all throughout our application, we're going to make them change their main photo before we allow them to delete it. And then what we'll do is we'll attempt to delete this from Cloudinary. So we'll say var result equals await, and then we'll use our photo accessor, we'll say delete photo, and pass in the photo ID. And if the result is equal to null, then we know that we've got a failure based on what we're returning from our delete photo method in the photo accessor. So what we'll do is we'll return result of type units and again failure. So this is going to result in a 400 bad request. And just for our information more than anything else, we'll just say problem deleting photo from Cloudinary, as this is where it would have failed. And then we can say user.photos.remove, as long as that was successful, and we'll remove the photo. And then we'll update our database. So we'll say var success. We've already used result earlier. We'll say await context and save changes async greater than 0. And we'll say if success, then we'll return the results of type unit, and we'll say success, and we'll return unit.value because we're not actually returning anything from a delete operation. And if that fails, then let's just copy this line because it's going to be quite similar. We'll just return the failure, and we'll just say problem deleting photo from, and this time I'll say from API. And then with this in place, we can go to our photos controller, and let's add a new method, a new endpoint, and we'll say http delete, and we need to get the ID of the photo from the root parameter. And then we'll say public async task, and again we're just going to return an iAction result, and we'll say delete, and we'll pass in a string ID, and we'll return handle results, and we'll say await mediator.send, and we'll say new delete.command, and we'll say the ID is equal to the ID. As simple as that. And let's go and make sure this functionality is working. So what we'll do is we'll just add, or what we'll do first of all is we'll attempt to delete Bob's photo. Now Bob has only got one photo, and we've got the ID available inside here. It's going to be tricky to test this functionality because we don't have a way to get a user's collection of photos yet. So I'm really just using what's available right now, which is just the fact I've uploaded a single photo and it's the main photo. So if I attempt to delete this photo, so I'm just going to copy its ID, go to the delete photo request, overwrite the ID that's in there now, and we've got the token being sent up for Bob. And if I try and click on send, then we should get the 400 bad request telling us that we cannot delete our main photo. And that's what we're looking for right there. So let's add another photo for Bob. And let's just go and find another Batman photo, this time Michael Keaton Batman. And I'll click on send. And what we want to see is the image object coming back, but this time with the isMain set to false. And if we click on this request and we click on send, then we get the updated or the new image from Cloudinary. And then if we attempt to delete this photo, this should actually work. So I've got the ID of the not main photo. I'll go back to the delete photo method. We'll overwrite the ID. And if I click on send at this time, it should be successful. We get the 200 OK. And I should find that if I click this send again, then it appears that it hasn't been deleted at all from Cloudinary. But what we're seeing here is just caching in action. It has gone from Cloudinary. And if I copy the ID, which is the name of the file here, and go and take a look inside Cloudinary and go to the media library and search the media library, then this is going to be gone from our Cloudinary library. So don't be fooled by caching there. It will disappear eventually. But it's been removed from our API now. And I'm going to say that's a success, even though in Postman I can't visibly show you that. So now that we have the add and delete methods taken care of, what we'll take a look at next is how we can set a different photo as the main image for a user.